Starting the podcast.
And share it quick on my Facebook before we welcome in.
Ooh,
If
there you go.
you're watching us on YouTube, glad you're here. This is a live recording of the More About Jesus.
Please bear with us as we set up. We don't have like an intro screen with music and stuff like that to hide behind while we do all our
If you want the professional version, then you have to just listen to the pod. This is the way. This is the way.
This is the way. Yes, we will be more. We will be more like Mandalorians. I mean, more like Jesus. Yeah.
Which Mandalorian? Ones that keep their helmets on, or the ones?
Oh no! Yeah, because
spoiler alert.
I'm sure everybody who has watched it has seen it.
Yeah, anyone who cares has better have.
Yeah. Let me just text my wife saying that we have started. Because yes, we are starting this a little bit early today because we were doing our pre-game ramble before doing this, and we are actually getting pretty good into the conversation. It's like we need to start this because
before we just doing it.
Before we're all like, oh, we've already talked about all this stuff. So all right. So maybe we'll just wait for a few people to join in. Not too sure. Or we could just go ahead and hit record and they can join in. All right.
We have preamble to do anything.
Yeah. What, wait for people or just record? All right. Starting.
Hello and welcome to the More About Jesus podcast. My name is Al Martins and I'm here with my cousin.
I am Daniel Dunbar.
Daniel Dunbar. The one and only. We're just two working guys that really love Jesus a lot. And we've realized over time that the more we deal with Jesus in our lives, the more we apply Jesus and his teaching to our lives and try to live out the kingdom, the better things get. Not that our lives are perfect, but we want our Christianity to be more than just churchy stuff. We want it to be more about Jesus. I did that off the cuff. That
was actually pretty good. I like that. That was a pretty good one.
Do that all the. I'm kidding. I'm never gonna do that. I can't do it. I tried, and I feel too mechanical if I write all down an intro.
that one was pretty good though. That one like nailed it. That was awesome.
But I had to wander around a bit till I could get to the point where I ended my sentence or about.
Yeah, that was a good wander though. I'll give that. That was a good wander.
I've been making up this stuff for you. Not really.
And have we all been making it up? I don't know.
I don't know. Christians can be pretty good at doing it. And then like everything's a certain way when it's. But that's a whole nother ball of wax. Ball of wax.
That's another story.
Bag of worms. That's a whole nother.
It's another monkey in circus.
Another bag of monkeys. Isn't that's an expression, right? Funner than a bag of monkeys.
Barrel of monkeys.
Barrel of monkeys. Yeah.
Remember the game Barrel of Monkeys?
That was a deadly game.
That was a deadly game.
Speaking of games, I have to give a quick warning. Not behind. I think my son bought a deluxe electronic Jumanji game.
Oh.
Now, we have another wooden one that it's kind of decent. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10 or something. Like it's an okay game.
Okay.
But this one I give it a -1 out of 10. Deluxe one with the electronic thing in the middle that you press and it's supposed to be. It was one of my worst gaming experiences ever. It was so confusing. The instructions are terrible and it's just They just threw it together.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
bad.
I think,
I'm not here
yeah,
to diss
one
stuff
time,
generally, but I just want to save someone some money. Just don't buy that because it's going to be a bad experience.
yeah. Yeah, because there was another movie that came out after the first Jumanji that was like they were going through space or something like that. It was a similar thing with a game
Oh
that
yeah,
they were playing. I don't.
my
Yeah,
kids
we
liked
we
that
got
when they were little. I think that one was pretty good if I remember. But
the movie was the
I,
board game sucked.
oh yeah, the movie
We
was good.
we played the board game once. That was it, and it was just like this actually sucked pretty bad. Because I think the board game was trying to follow the movie too much
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
didn't want to be its own thing.
I think they just make
Right.
it to make money.
Yeah, that's totally what it was. And it was so bad.
Does your
It was so
family
bad.
have a favorite board game that you go back to, or?
I would say no, we actually have a card game we go back to. Yeah, we've got a card game that we play a lot, especially when we have people over and stuff, because you can do like with 6 to 8 people at a time,
That's cool.
and you can have a lot of fun with it. It's called Sticks. We did find another game that well, because this game was one that somebody had brought to us, and you just have like it's almost like Rummy
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, but
Like
on
a
your
matching
like
thing
you
or making sets.
yeah, but yeah, so you make sets or you make pairs or you make sets and stuff like that, and you have sticks that you want to get like what you're trying to achieve is written down on the stick, and then when you get that, then um, you can either win the round or whatever. And so you play with about 6 or so decks of cards. So which is why you can have 6 to 8 people and you
Oh,
have
it's
like
just
15
with
cards in
actual
your hand.
playing cards.
Yeah, with actual playing cards. So it's a lot of fun. It's one that we go to all the time.
Yeah, those are the kind of games. Sometimes when I in the nerd world, like in LTN, we have games like this behind me all the time. But people sometimes forget about good games like Crib. I just play Crib with my dad. He plays it forever, over and over and over.
Oh yeah.
Or Canasta or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good. Well, I'm gonna check that out. Stick. You ever play
That's
Big Boss, Little Boss when you're in like youth group?
Oh yeah. We played that at we played that on New Year's with some friends.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that was
Dutch
a good
Blitz.
one.
Dutch Blitz. Oh, you need for just 4 people for.
Oh yeah.
When I was, we were just talking about before, but I in the early '90s, I was a junior high part-time pastor at a church I was attending, and because the youth group was super big, booming, like he couldn't put his attention, so they hired another guy to just high, and they did life-size Dutch Blitz, like so they had cards that were like huge.
Oh geez,
In the
that's
gym
huge.
with kids, like so there's 4 teams, and they're just
my.
kids running around with these giant Dutch Blitz cards and screaming and oh, you want chaos.
Yeah.
That was pretty wild.
That's like or playing spoons at youth group where there's like the there's only a certain amount of spoons in the center, and then when the person goes out with their cards, then everybody has to grab a spoon as quickly as you
I
can,
never
or else
played
you're
that.
out of the game.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Like
that one was brutal. I mean, there was almost fist fights.
Yeah.
Over a spoon, right? Because then 2 people grab the same spoon and then they're wrestling over it. So, because then as people go out, you take out another spoon, and so then it's like musical chairs, but a card game. Yeah.
I don't think we even have a go-to game now.
Yeah.
It depends who's playing. My wife likes certain type of games. I like certain type of games. There's a few that we all like.
Mm-hmm.
If it was up to me, I'd play Dice Throne time.
Dice Throne.
Amazing. Simple.
Heard of it.
Turn.
Yeah.
Very fun. I don't know how
Yeah,
we got on
we've
board
got a
games, but we did. That's pretty good.
yeah.
Couple of nerds. Other than, yes, how was your week? Like, you said you had more desolation this week.
More desolation over the last 2 weeks. And actually, I was just thinking of it the last time we did the podcast and I was coughing, the plague entered our house. It's like,
Oh,
even though I had tested negative like the day before, it was like I tested again on Saturday and it's like, nope, you've got the plague. So
I
my
think that
daughter and my
Omicron's going to go
son.
everywhere before.
Yeah, yeah. My daughter, my son. Well, what tipped it off was that my daughter came home and she's like, I haven't been able to taste or smell anything all day. And like we just got over our colds. And it's like we were both feeling great. So she tested positive. So I tested. And it was a very, very faint positive line on the test thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else in the house tested negative. And it's like, okay. And then so we were making arrangements because like I had to do a lot of stuff at church the next day because that's what I do on Sundays is all the recording and stuff like that, all the technical stuff. And then I tested on Sunday morning and I was negative. So who knows how long I had it. And then Monday morning, our son who lives with us, he tested positive and he had the fever. But so yeah, we had the plague run through our house as well. So, but Brandy never got it because she does have all four of the vaccinations. So
Cool.
and she never got it at all, which is a big answer to prayer for us
Yeah,
because
for sure.
she is immune compromised. So yeah, that's like huge that that didn't happen to her. So and then yeah, more deaths in with friends and still walking through a lot of grieving and stuff with other people. So yeah, that's yeah, it was
Yeah, I think we both
fairly
had some. I shared some of it on my Twitter. I won't be sharing it here, but
yeah.
things that go on in our lives. I think that it builds up. It's thought of that, like um, longer you live, the more chance there are some of this crap happening up. And if you care at all about people, it's gonna weigh on you. It's gonna if you have empathy, then it sometimes your heart's gonna be broken. It
Mm-hmm.
is, and
Yeah.
if anything, it helps us to be better friends. But some days I'm tired
Yeah.
of it. Tired of it. Like my job. Like now I have more hope. So my last 2 weeks have been slowly getting more hopeful, and I'm not like super happy or not, but I have my moments. So I mean that's a good step. When you've gone through some mourning and just kind of burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Once you start, and it comes with the spring. So I don't know. I see why people. I used to think seasonal affective disorder, but
No.
I don't think that anymore. I like that was the old version of me that was so judgy about. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it can totally affect mood.
Oh, totally. Right. And like, yeah. So like this last week as well, this past week. So that was 2 weeks ago. So this past week was also my birthday. Um, and so now I'm 47 years old. And we had some friends over for a barbecue. And yeah, so that was great to be able to stand outside and be in the sunshine and have a barbecue. So, that whole um seasonal affective disorder sad. Um yeah, it's like when you're standing outside with friends and you're having a barbecue and stuff, that's just like it's healing in itself, I think. So,
Hmm.
meat and fire and because I'm a meatitarian. So
I noticed today that I need to grow in my conversation skills. So I mean, I mean, COVID and all the things in my life have taken some of that away from me, maybe, or I'm a new person, and I really have a hard time with small talk. So
Mm.
I've been doing my last 2 weeks. I've been doing lots of dumping trucks, so receiving in the plant. So farmers bring in their products, and I put it into the plant, and
Yep.
a lot of them come out and want to talk, and uh, I'm finding that it's hard sometimes where it never used to be. Sometimes I just like I just want them to go away and just leave me alone. Go sit in your truck. Let me listen to my music because I don't want to answer your question. Oh, the weather like about those crop prices, whatever the same things they all talk. How about that effing
Yeah.
Trudeau or whatever that they want to talk
Sports
about?
ball teams.
Yeah, but I used to be good at doing that, so I want to find my way back to that. I think I even
Mm.
shared that a while back on my Twitter about how even now that I'm trying to integrate myself into a church body again a little bit, whatever capacity that is, I have a
Yeah.
hard time answering the question, how you doing? Well, I don't actually. I want to be honest. Let's say, you know what? I've had a really crappy time, but I'm doing better. I'm feeling more. I start explaining how I'm doing, and you could just see
Yeah.
their face go blank because it's like, I didn't expect you to just do that. I expect you to just say great and then move on to the next person. Right? That's
It's
what we do.
great.
Yeah,
I'm
that's what we
doing
do.
awesome today.
They don't actually, and there are genuine people that really care and they really want to know how you're doing and all that. I'm not saying that everyone's, but you know, it's a societal thing, a social thing that we say, and I'm
Yeah.
not good at that stuff. I'm finding anymore. I'm sure there's others that are finding the same thing after COVID. We're integrating into society again and coming out of our little caves.
The wild animal that was separated from its tribe for 2 years has finally emerged from his cage. He looks around and has no idea how to make conversation anymore.
I want to do. I wish if right now I need that music from Hinterland, Who's Who, used to have on CBC.
I was thinking more David Attenborough myself,
Ooh.
but hey,
All those little vignettes they used to have
oh yeah,
about the beaver. Beaver makes it. Oh, those are good. That's a Canadian
Welcome to the
deep cut there, and
yeah.
probably a generational deep cut. I don't think my kids have ever. Hinterland, Who's Who. Google it. It'll be
Yeah.
on there. Bing it. Actually, now
Yeah.
that's my new expression. I gotta give
Bing it.
Frostbite the credit for that. That I heard him talking about it. Because no one says Bing it.
Ah, that's
That's
true.
yeah. I'm gonna make it work. Bing it.
Or duck duck go it, depending on which browser you use.
Oh, anything else you want to
Depending on
chat
which
about
browser you use.
before we get on with things?
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say that like that thing about the honest conversation. I did have one of those with somebody who came to our church. I
Mm-hmm.
asked him how he was doing, because I haven't seen him for a while, and he's like, actually doing pretty crappy. I was like, oh. And so we has actually had a good, honest conversation, because he's like, he works at a school as a teacher slash principal, and he's like, people are just angry all the time now, it
Yeah.
seems. And it's like, yeah, no, I can remember. Um, that was another thing that came out of with COVID, because a lot of people are online and there's a lot of anonymity online. So for 2 years, you could do or say whatever you wanted.
Hmm.
And so a lot of people just wound up with their opinions being the most important thing that they thought was out there, and they became angry. And that's carrying over into the real world now. So
Yeah.
it's
It's not gonna
it's
work
it's no, and I've been
face to
finding that
face.
everywhere. It's like, yeah, a lot of people are angry all the time now. And it's like, maybe this is why. I don't
Wow,
know.
and this is our
But
chance to do better, eh? That's why
yeah.
I took that massive social media break, just to set my focus again and get out of that. And make sure it's like a cold turkey. Get out of that world where I'm
Mhm.
always a crusader or whatever, fighting using media to create a. Yeah,
Yeah.
but what about my rights and what I think about this?
Yeah.
Grr. Yeah, no, I feel it. As an ex-angry person. I know what that's like. Hmm.
Hmm.
There was a Glenn Kaiser song on one of his blues albums called Angry Man. It's a good blues song, but it's like a prayer about not being an angry man. And that one hit me back when it was. Because I did spend too much time as an angry man. That's sad.
Oh, yeah.
But that's, hey, that was last.
Yes.
We have a new exciting topic
Angry.
today that everyone loves to talk about.
Everybody loves to talk about this. Let's talk about sex, baby.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
talk
right.
about
I'm
you
gonna
and
put
me.
all the hashtags and tag that because I know I'll get lots of hits. I remember your brother. So Doug did a sermon series where he did actually post a video or something with sex in the title, and he mentioned
Boom.
how many listens he got. His
Oh,
sermons would
yeah,
have
yeah.
a certain amount, and this one just had a
Yeah,
million hits, but then it all dropped off as soon as not one
Just
of them
found out it was
listened
a
to the end.
sermon.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to hear this.
What did the metrics say? We're done at 30 minutes, or we're done in 30 seconds. That's what the metrics are saying. What's your listener? Yeah. Yeah. That was one thing I noticed even with our own with my church's YouTube page. Is like the majority of watchers are logging out after 30 seconds. I'm like, that's the intro music. Okay, I'm cutting the intro music right out of there. That way some people actually get something if they're going to log out in a minute. Right? Just go straight to the sermon and just hit it right from there.
Boom.
So, yeah. Yeah, because just looking at the metrics, and now most people are watching past the 6-minute mark before they log out. So,
Oh.
yeah. I'm like, oh, good. Okay, so my intro music just really sucked, I guess, and just turned everybody off.
I like our intro, which you wrote, by the way. Now it's
No, it's just something I
legendary.
put together.
Now it's on
Now
the
it's
internet
legendary.
forever.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it'll never go. You should have made it a
And
PDF or whatever that is. MDF, MP3. What are they called?
NFT,
Yeah.
NFT, NFT,
I'm such a
non-fictional
dumb
tea
nerd.
holder,
Yeah. Yeah.
non non-fictional tea holder, also known as a coffee cup.
Okay, so I'm going to do a quick disclaimer before I read this passage because it's going to get into a topic of said sex, lust, and adultery, but this isn't going to be about adultery. It's not going to be about being judgmental. It's not going to be accusational. At least for my part. I mean, and I'm assuming from what I know of your heart, I don't think it would be. So this isn't a preachy time for us to say, you guys all suck. Here's what the Bible says. Stop sucking. It's going to be an honest talk about something that's an epidemic, I think, in our society. We're not going to quote a bunch of stats about how much percentage of whatever men or women in the church watch porn or whatever. You guys know all that stuff. You know it's a problem in the world, not in. It's just as bad in the church. Like it's everywhere. We're not doing that. I don't want to do it anyway. I don't want to do stats and stuff. We want to look at this scripture verse, and at the end of this, it is my desire that we would have more hope for the future.
Mm-hmm. That's a good spiel.
Can there be hope in the world? Okay, I'm going to read from the New Living Translation. We're continuing in Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 to 30. And to set the context, he just talked about anger, how even if you call someone an idiot, you're guilty of murder, basically. It's the same thing. And he's doing another one of those things. You've heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery. But I say anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So, if your eye, even your good eye, causes you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your hand, even your stronger hand, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell.
Oh, we're going to stop right there, eh?
I think that's the
Ooh.
whole lust thing.
Yep. Yeah. Because then after that is divorce. That's the next section on that one.
So, what do we think?
Did you want to hear it in the message or what?
Yeah, actually I do, because the NLT has this, your eye, even your good eye, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure why they chose to do emphasize the good eye or your stronger hand.
Okay. Fun fact, when you get your prescription for your glasses, you have your OS and your OD, right? Because your left eye,
yeah, one
is
of your eyes.
OS.
Well, everyone has different, but there's one eye that focuses.
No.
Or one eye is the center one or whatever, right?
Just a second. Your left eye, the OS, is called the oculus sinister.
Oh.
And then we Googled that. We Googled, binged that last. Well, we didn't bing. We don't bing. We Google in my family because we're old school. We're old souls here. we went on the whole thing of like, what the heck is the oculus sinister like? And it went down to like the left is sinister.
Wasn't that was Tool's second album, Oculus?
Oh, maybe what? I don't know.
I'm joking.
And then the other one is Oculus. The right one is called Oculus Dexter. So just like the sinister. So if you're giving somebody the evil eye, you're looking at them with your left eye.
Oh. And you make it look more evil because your ring light just was centered perfectly.
Oh, perfect. That was totally by mistake.
That's awesome.
Not intentional at all. I didn't do that in intention. Okay,
let's do the
which is really
message.
Funny. Okay, from the massage. You know the next commandment pretty well, too. Don't go to bed with another spouse. But don't think you've preserved your virtue simply by staying out of bed. Your heart can be corrupted by lust even quicker than your body. Those leering looks you think nobody notices, they also corrupt. Let's not pretend this is easier than it really is. If you want to live a morally pure life, here's what you have to do. You have to blind your right eye in the moment you catch it in a lustful leer. You have to choose to live one-eyed or be dumped on a moral trash pile. And you have to chop off your right hand the moment you notice it raised threateningly. Better a bloody stump than your entire being discarded for good in the dump.
Well, it's on a side note before we dig in. He's more accurate in regards to dump than the word hell is. Hell is a word that people have invented. I don't want to be heretical or nothing, but that's just biblical truth. That's scholarly truth, that there's different words in the Bible, like the place of the dead and those things. And and I'm not going to argue about what hell is or not, but that word hell itself, it conjures up something different. And it might not be the word, it's not like a fire he's talking about. It's probably trash heap is fine, or the place of the dead. Just on the side. But I don't want to, that's a whole nother thing.
I don't have the Hebrew one in front of me, so I don't know.
In case someone's wondering why he says trash heap. That's not so...
But that sounds pretty extreme, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's still pretty, I mean... So, right off the hop... is this even reasonable? for Jesus to expect that of people. Can't even look at a woman. Or do you want to get rid of the whole gender thing right away too? We can get into that. Because Jesus is specific here. But I think I agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily, and like I said, we're not getting into stats. I think we can safely say if a person looks at another person lustfully,
yes,
then maybe we should start off with what is lust. What does that mean?
Yeah. So there is a man will notice a woman will notice a man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if we go by the 80 percentile of people out there, right? In because that's called what is it? Sexual, not desire. Oh, I had the word earlier and I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it's in order, you will notice, like I will notice a woman, right? Because of genetics, DNA, whatever. Because the way that God is made, man and woman, is to procreate. So we have to be able to find a mate. So our genetics, our DNA, our evolution, even if you want to say, is the fact that you always look, right? Now, lusting, on the other hand, is where you look a little longer and then in your mind, you start going into bed with the person. That's lust, not just sexual awareness, I guess you would say. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, wholeheartedly. And yeah, when I get to the point where I'm gonna share lots, that's for sure something I'm talking about. Like I guess we could dig into it now. There's no time like the present. You led into it perfectly. It was revolutionary for me. This will be the only story I tell. The same pastor, actually, I mentioned, the one from Saskatoon when I was working as a junior high part-time pastor. We were having a meeting. Actually, I still remember it was at Alexander's. It's not called that. It's a pretty nice little restaurant. You know how big churches, they have the pastors go out and.
Oh yeah.
That was the first time I experienced that. I'm like, this is nice. They pay for us to have a fancy lunch. Anyways, it was at that lunch he shared with me something about lust that I'd never heard before. My whole life. He said, there's nothing wrong with noticing a woman. Notice, and you used that word to notice. Notice. That's how we're made, he said. It's what you do with after the noticing that's wrong. And that blew my mind. Because I felt guilty my whole life for noticing the female form. And it took some time, but it revolutionized your thinking. I think this is the first step, the biggest key to finding hope and help if you have a lust problem, is to first allow yourself to be normal and say, it's not wrong that I noticed that girl is very attractive, because that's the way God made her beautiful, and you noticed it, and you might even like it. But that's not lusting until you want it for yourself. Unbridled sexual desire. It's like, okay, there's crude terms we could use, but I'm not going to use them. The kind of things that dudes say, you know?
Yeah.
When they see a girl and they want to, those things.
They're like,
you've crossed.
I'd hit that.
Yeah, I tapped that. Right? All those horrible things. So that's the world I live in with the people I've worked with for years. It's unbridled sexual desire. It's all they talk about. It's all they think about. So that's the area we don't want to get to. But I think I felt guilty for noticing for so long that, and to be honest, if we bring the devil into it, that's when he grabs you and says, "Oh, you're such a pervert."
Yeah.
You notice
There's
that
the
girl
guilt.
has giant boobs. You're such a bad person. Right? And that's not the truth. Satan will try to make you feel guilty, and then you stay trapped in that. And I
Yes.
really think that's the first step to overcoming.
Yes, and it works. And it works both ways, right? Not just men leering at women, right? Women leer at men too.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker, if you didn't know that. So
I think sometimes people compare, but yeah, I don't see the worth in that. Even from as a Christian feminist, from that perspective, I would say it's more harmful to, because the perspective a lot of people have towards feminists is that we hate men. Yeah, everyone hates men. It's always attacking men, and it's not really that. Not really that. For people that
not
are
really.
truly Christian feminists, there are feminists that are just maybe, but that in any movement, there's some people that take it too extreme and have a bad reputation. I mean, hey, we're Christians, and I'm actually ashamed to use the word Christian. I have to explain it. If are you a Christian, I'll say, just a second. I don't. What do you mean by Christian? Right? Because there's a lot of different views of what a Christian is from the world's perspective. I'm not gonna go nowhere to sign and bash people on the head and say they're going to hell. Just so you know that.
Yeah.
Not the Christianity I. Oh, okay. So it's the same with that. So
Yeah, I think that's yeah, stumbling over my words, and that's not good. So
it's all right.
yes, I believe that there are different. Where was I going with this? I totally lost my train of thought.
Well,
I
men and
apologize.
women are different, but we can't put it on just one sec.
No,
it's
and
per person. Everyone has their own stuff to deal with. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and you know, before, I would say before 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, right? Men were more of the sexual predators, I would say.
I mean,
As
they're
far
still
as
out there.
the dating,
We're definitely not saying there's no such thing as a male sexual predator, but
no. I'm not saying predator in like he's going to physically harm you to get what he wants. I'm saying as far as like he's the guy buying the drinks. He's, you know, the guy.
Oh yeah,
You know,
seeking a sexual relation,
seeking it. I'm saying predator in the term of like
hunter.
trying to coerce a woman into his arms and into his bed. Right. Whereas now the roles have almost been reversed. It's more, and so I really wanted to understand this. I didn't want to be mansplaining anything here. I actually asked my wife and my daughter on this topic, and my daughter just came out of 3 years of college, and she was the designated driver for a lot of her friends to and from the bars. And she says, you, when you're in the bar and you see it, and you see how these like there's your work clothes, and then there's your dancing clothes, and she said, like, a lot of girls in the college will dress a certain way to make sure that they do get noticed, because the girls have one thing on their mind. And she says 10 out of 10 girls are savages. they are worse than the guys at times when it comes to that. So the roles have been reversed within our society, and I've known that's been happening, but to actually have a little bit of confirmation on that, um, yeah, it's just become, sex has become such a prevalent part of our society now that is no longer just for a married couple.
Yeah, it's just a thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we can agree that pornography is wrong. I want to
Yes.
throw anyone there. And it's everywhere, and it's a thing. And so yeah, and I think it's. I mean, I guess you said roles are reversed, but I I don't have enough perspective to know, because I don't know stats and I don't know everyone's heart, but I think it's fair enough to say that equally men and women have this problem. Like men
Yes.
haven't had it, they're not any less perverted than they were past, at least from my experience. But I
It's
haven't
just more.
interacted with women to know. So hearing a
Yeah.
perspective from a woman that's it's a real thing, it seems like
It's more out in the open now,
yeah.
if anything, right? It's all out in the open, because I mean, and it goes down to, um, you look at the advertisings that's even on like the sides of buses, the sides of businesses, the sides, billboards or anything like that, scantily clad women or like really buff dudes to sell things. It's like a scantily clad woman is selling a watch. What's up with that? Right.
Yeah.
But it's because sex does sell, and our commerce has known that for quite a while. I mean, even with all the women liberation movements, even with the equality and all the stuff that you've been hearing about within um, Hollywood, right? All the scandals and everything else that have been coming out with Epstein and everybody else, and why? Who was the other guy? The director or the producer, who was put to jail for a long time, and then everybody's coming out with, all the actors and actresses are coming out with all the things where they were, the casting couch
Mm-hmm.
was a thing, and the sexualization of people on the screen, and it's still happening, even though they've been having all this anti that, it's still happening on the screen because it
So
sells.
I
I
mean,
mean,
the Apostle Paul wrote against the Greek culture, which was highly sexualized. They had temple prostitutes and all those kind of things. And there's
yeah.
very clear scriptures on not living your life in sexual immorality. Yet our
Yeah, that
world
was
is.
in Corinthians, like in the
Yeah,
first
there's
book of
so many.
Corinthians.
Like
Yeah,
there's that's, and I think we have it clear, but are we as a church doing a job at that out of our lives? I think we're good at hiding it, and like I said, we're not going to talk about having an affairs. We know what happens. I'm sure that everyone listening to this has had someone in their life have something happen. But what Jesus is driving home, that it's not. We're not talking about the act. We're talking about where it starts, and it
yes.
starts in your heart.
Hmm.
How can we compete with that? His suggestion is that we cut our eyes out and chop our hands off. I
To
don't
go
think
to such drastic measures,
I don't
yes.
think he's being literal. Obviously, this is one of those cases where people who say, "Always read your Bible, take it literally. Everything is literal." Well, no,
It's like,
God, Jesus is not saying
mm,
actually gouge your eye out.
yeah, yeah. I don't think he was. I think it was more like an aside to the people that are there. It's like, really, well, if you can't stop, gouge out your eye, and if you
Yeah,
really can't stop touching yourself, chop your hand off. It's like,
you
whoa,
feel
whoa,
that
whoa, whoa, whoa.
with the hand, that's what he's suggesting there.
I'm totally thinking that. I've
Yeah,
heard
me
some other
too.
pastors say this, and they're like, no, 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 no. It's like this. The message I think had it wrong. Is like, don't raise your hand up against an anger and stuff like that. He wasn't talking about anger here. He was talking about sex and adultery and lust.
Yeah,
He was not talking
yeah,
about anger here.
yeah. He was talking about the M word.
He was,
Dangling.
yeah, yeah, chewing. I mean, mastication. I mean, masturbation.
Yeah, there you
Yes.
go.
I went there. I totally did.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of clear. But
Yeah.
so he's obviously not suggesting we do like mutilate ourselves. Um, but what is it we can do, and what what's your take
Yeah.
on how to battle this?
Okay, my take on how to battle this. This is
Or
this
have
is
victory. I mean, I'll before you say something, I'll say one more thing quick.
okay.
I've been in a bunch of men's group things. One of them
Mm-hmm.
was Promise Keepers. Don't hate me. Back in the day, and the guy he went on and on for an hour about the sin and lust, and it was so hopeless and pathetic in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that I was just tired of hearing it. Like at the end, finally, I asked, I'm like, is there ever any hope? Like, is there any ever a man who doesn't always struggle with this whole life, or are we just always going to be pathetic? And he had no answer, and I just don't like that hopeless approach because I think,
Mm.
and when it's my turn to share, I'll share why. But I don't think it should be seen as hopeless. I think Jesus would put us in that position where we don't have a chance of doing better. But
Yeah.
anyway, there's
Yeah. So, is there hope? Absolutely. There's hope. There's hope in healing. And now it does take a while to go through that. Now, my addiction to pornography, because I was addicted to pornography, started probably when I was about 7 years old. So that's young, right? And that's friends finding magazines and reading them, even at 7 years old, right? And what it does, and here's the thing that I found out later on through some courses that I took in about pornography, sexual desire, and what it does to the brain. So your hormones start working, and inside your brain, yeah, I've got a nice shiny head here, so you can see my brain pretty good. Uh, so what it starts doing is it starts connecting points because the chemicals that are with all of that, all the dopamines and stuff, are really strong. And so it starts connecting your pleasure center to that part of your brain that is looking at pornography, right? Whether you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter. It starts connecting that. And then that becomes a really strong bridge point. And it becomes a point where that's where that for that pleasure, that's what it's thinking of all the time because it's like you built a super highway between that part of your brain, right? Which is why it's one of the harder ones to get over. Now, this is any addiction as well. It doesn't matter if it's drugs, alcohol, or anything. Is that you will look for that, like even social media addictions and stuff like that. Like you love the dopamine hit every time you get a like or you get a new
mm-hmm.
subscriber or anything like that. You love that dopamine hit, right? Like tap that right in there, right?
Yeah.
Right, and that's what your brain's doing. Um, so it took quite a while. It takes quite a while to rewire that part of your brain, right? And you have to be diligent. And the other thing with like AAA programs or anything like that, it's like the first thing you have to realize is you are powerless to do anything about this. You need divine help. You need God's help in order to go through this. Like that's part of the 12-step program, even. Now,
And
I never took
community,
a
you
12.
can't just
Yeah, and
yeah.
community. And you know what? Being honest with your spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
That'll help right there. And years ago I was honest with Brandy and it crushed her. It broke her. It was that was the most disappointed I'd ever been in myself, in the fact that I had hurt my wife by doing something that was hidden.
Hmm.
That sucked, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to hide. It is so incredibly easy to hide.
And it stays hidden
And
then because you know how that once it comes.
oh, exactly, right. And so and so it's just like, you know what, I will never do this again because, right, I don't want to hurt my wife. Now, I'm not going to say that I was never tempted. No, I still was. And there are days that happen, and it's like my brain triggers, and it's like, hey, why don't you go watch some porn? I'm like, no, I mean, I'm really dedicated to my wife now, and this connection in my brain has to be killed.
Hmm.
Right? I need God to step in. And so it's like I will, start focusing on God more. I will start, so I listen to a lot of Christian podcasts. I, fill that void with God. And that helps a lot.
Hmm.
Right. And then it doesn't happen as much.
Oh, it's rewriting the
It's
pathways. Sense.
exactly right. And it's just like you look at an alcoholic with addiction. Don't ever go into a bar again. You look at a drug addict, don't do drugs again, stuff like that. It's like, but when you look at our media and everything that's around us now, the lust addiction is a harder one to kick, because you look at movies, movies that you watch, like I love watching anime, but there is a ton of anime that I cannot watch, because if I cannot watch it with my wife being in the room, I shouldn't be watching it myself.
Yeah.
And it's not like anime that is like all about sex. This is just like any anime, and it's just like there's, they draw them in a certain way.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of
And
them are. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's like I really am very picky about what kind of anime I watch. It's like nothing over, like, even some of the rating of PG-13. It's just like I'll give it an episode or two, and if it's something I can't watch in front of my wife, I won't watch it. Right.
That's a good policy. I'll be honest, I watch shows that she doesn't like, but it's mostly violence. I can kind of, I don't know. I'm not sharing that that's a good thing, but The Walking Dead, it's still kind of, that show kind of freaks me out. And I don't find the violence attractive to me. I find it horrible, but the stories and the people, everyone has their thing. But no, no, it's a bad road to go down where you're watching something that if came and saw, you'd have to turn it off or change, or your phone. Like, I know I've talked to some guys who, when they're struggling, don't even have a phone or give wife their control of their phone because they can't control themselves. Somehow take steps to prevent those things. Thanks for being so honest. That actually, I think the more Christians share their honest struggles like that, the better, as it brings things to light. And when we hide it in the darkness is when it's just nothing changes and nothing grows.
Absolutely.
More. And I'm no different than you. I think every dude has a story growing up. Like when I was young, the first time I saw something in a magazine, I was little, driving a bike, and we found a box full of magazines just off the side of the road in a bush or whatever. How does that work? Who does that?
That was
And so,
I don't know, but everybody has that story of the box of porn on the side of the road.
So how can we? Okay, well, I'm going to share a bit of my concept now, and then try to piece together something for how do we teach our boys this? How do we or our kids? Like,
our kids,
because one thing. So we've already established that liking how someone looks is not lust. That's normal. Also, I want to establish something super important, because you mentioned that you're tempted. And I want to make sure everyone understands that being tempted not a sin either. At all. So even if you get close to it, it's not a sin. You think, oh, no. And you know why? Because Jesus was tempted in every way the same as we. And yet without sin. So being tempted, not a sin. So that can offer us hope too. And don't let the devil trick you into thinking that you did something wrong. When you see something beautiful and you're tempted to have that thought, still haven't sinned, there's still a place to go back. You'll stop and say, no, this is not for me, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I have had lots of victory in this. And part of it's because of allowing myself to just appreciate women in a different way. And I can actually find myself even admitting in my mind that a woman's attractive or pretty or those things, without ever wanting to tap that at all. At all. Like, and I don't know if part of it's age or part of it's just like the rewiring of my brain. And my wife in the chat says every addictive behavior needs to be replaced with a new healthy habit. That's, you can't just leave a hold.
Yeah.
And so it's changing the way you think about this stuff can really make a difference. So one of the things I find when I'm talking with other guys who like to be perverted, and it's usually someone younger. They'll be in their 40s or something, and they're looking at someone that could be their daughter. I'm like, you're weird, man. Like, that could be your daughter. Like, that's wrong. Like, you're a freak, man. I do say that. Because that's creepy. Like, if you're... Oh. Those kind of things. And I don't go out of my way to make people feel... That scares me, that thought. But that, in my brain, that's one of the things. So I'm never going to look at a younger woman and think sexual thoughts, because that's actually a step towards being a sicko, isn't it? That's how I think. So that helps me. Also, having empathy and caring about a person first as a person. Like, if I don't know what they're going through in their life, women, maybe they've been abused, maybe they've just lost a loved one, and the love of Jesus compels me to care about that person on a deeper level. And I have allowed myself to friends to a certain extent and to care about women. I'm not scared to care for them and care about them. And it changes my perspective. I don't think about sexual things because I'm actually caring about their person and asking them about their kids or about family or about their loved ones. I don't find myself thinking that. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this that there's hope. Because I've seen a lot of men who are always in the struggle, which also I will say is good, which is weird to say, but if you are struggling with love, that's better than giving in all the time. But most people I know in the world don't struggle with lust. They just lust as much as they want. Unbridled sexual desire. That's the definition of. If you struggle with it, then you still have a conscience, and the Holy Spirit is still working in your heart to help you do better. So that actually, I should give you good. Keep it up. But also, I think there's hope for better. I think there's hope for the future where we don't have to, when there's an ad on a bus or an ad on the television, that we don't always have to jump into defensive mode. We can notice something and say, yeah, there's that, and go on with their lives instead of focusing on something that's going to draw us into unbridled sexual.
Yeah.
What do you think of that
absolutely.
whole concept?
Well, I like that we have to. The best way I can describe it as um, God made people in His image, and so like God made Brandy for me, right? The two became one flesh. Brandy and I are a couple. Everybody else, right? Man, woman, doesn't matter, are still in the image of God, and it says that we have to love God and love our neighbors, um, but we have to respect them as well, right? Like love your neighbors, he says, not love your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the image of God everywhere. So that person is an image bearer of God, doesn't matter race, sex, or anything like that. That is another image of God. So respect it as an image of God is one of the best ways that I can describe how I look at it.
I
Is
mean,
like
they're a
that
real
is another
person. That's the thing.
that's another copy of God,
Yeah.
right? Because God did that. I mean, he's like, let's go down and make people, and he did, and here we are, and we're all different, right? Because yeah, God likes variety.
And think about here's another perspective from Christian feminism. If me as a man can never overcome this desire to always have an unbridled sexual desire for every woman I see, think of what I'm missing out from having a relationship, a professional, platonic relationship. I'm not saying one on one. I'm not saying go take some lady out for work for coffee every day. I'm saying just developing a rapport and a friendship with someone of the opposite sex. If
Mm-hmm.
if there's always lust involved, you're missing out on learning from
Yeah.
and loving that person and pouring into their life in some way. And it's actually very detrimental in that sense.
Yeah. It can be because we do have friends who I have I've got friends that are of the opposite sex and stuff like that. And yeah, sometimes they ask, for my opinion or something like that. It hasn't happened for a long time. Because we've all gotten older and all matured, and now we have our own opinions. uh, but it's the thing of yes, you're right that we want to have a good working relationship, want to be able to speak into, and it's the same thing. It's just like I want them to be able to speak into my life as well, and because they'll have a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like women have a different perspective than guys do, as far as anything really, and it's always good to have that extra perspective, uh, and which is great. Um, I will say though that I did look up the Billy Graham rule that you talked about, and that's where you're not alone with somebody of the opposite sex, no matter your convictions, right? And I'm like, that's true, and I can totally get behind that. Like, I will not meet with a female. From our church or otherwise without my wife or somebody else that I trust being there, like on our own. I won't do that. I just won't. Um, and it's not that I can't control my sexual desires or anything like that. It is a safety thing on both ends. Like we had to do for our church in order to work even with children, because I also led like a children's worship team and stuff. We had to do a plan to protect um, uh, thing
Mm-hmm.
course and stuff like that. And it's like, you
Yeah,
cannot be
everyone.
alone with a child. Everybody has to do this, right? If you work at a church or anything like that, you really need to take this course. And it's just that. And it's even like, in the studio, I have got security cameras in here, so that if I happen to have like somebody else in here, and I'm tracking their vocals or whatever, that security camera is running. And it's like, no, this is not to protect me. This is to protect us, both of us, right?
Mhm.
Like my wife's salon that we have in the house, there's a security camera in there too. Why? To protect everybody, right? So somebody can't come around and say, you did this, or this person did this, or whatever, right? No, the camera's always running, right? And so that way there's no, it's you need the impartial third party there, right? Just to keep everybody safe.
It's unfortunate, but it's a reality of our that.
It is, because
And I know the Billy Graham rule. I don't like using.
no, I didn't even
He
know what it
said
was,
that,
and I'm
and
just like,
I think it can be taken to a lot of extremes, and sometimes it's even very toxic idea. But from a practical sense, it makes sense to protect both parties from things
absolutely,
happening because it's happened too
yeah,
often. But
yes,
I think also it's created a fear in men who are struggling with women, and they're like, it's like the woman is the toxic thing they have to stay away from. In some cases, it's like, no, like, yeah, like Scarlet Letter, and oh no, and all the emphasis ends up being placed on the women being this object of desire, and the men just, well, I can't help it, I'm made that way. And a lot of that garbage comes from, uh, I'll be honest, Dr. Dobson is someone we grew up with, who created a
mm,
whole lot of things, and passed them off as actually gospel truth and science when it was not that. Like, men
mm-hmm.
are, we're not visually stimulated, and women are not. Like, that's all just stuff that people made up. We are visually stimulated, but everyone is. Like, it's not,
Both is, yeah,
that's pseudoscience that he made up to make an excuse for men.
yeah.
Well, I can't help myself, so you have to dress appropriately. Basically, wear nuns out, or else it's your fault that I lust. That's what purity culture is, and that's a whole nother topic we probably don't have time to delve into. But
Yeah.
I want to offer hope, I guess, and the reason why is I want people to be able to have, I guess, good relationships with their spouses and with other people
Mm-hmm.
without that barrier there. So I think it can be done. I think there's victory, um, through all kinds of ways. You took courses, and I'm sure you read books, and I have too, and everyone has a process um to work through this. I think there's victory, and um I don't think you have to go so far as what to gouge your out, or I think you
No.
just got to start caring about it and start doing something about it, talking about it,
Yeah, I
share
can
it
just
with
take my
someone.
glasses off. I mean,
That's all it
I am
takes.
so blind that I could just take my glasses off, and I'm blind.
Oh, and even valuing, I don't think it's right to even value just your spouse in this. I don't think it's right to have unbridled sexual desire from my wife of 30 some years. I have to think beyond that, her as a person, and care
Yes.
about all those things. Like, if that's all your life's
Oh,
about,
absolutely.
that's terrifying.
No, no. I mean, Paul. I mean, like Paul said it the best. I can't remember which one it was, but like Paul was like, okay, so as a married couple, you do it for a while, and then you go and pray, and then you come back and do it again. I heard that from one comedian who was, it's like, God was about, yep, no, it's you are allowed to have sex with your wife if you both agree to it, but also remember to keep God in the equation. So it's like, do it, pray, maybe pray some more, and then go do it again.
Well, what more do we want to say? What's the lot? We can't do this all night, but well, we
No.
could, but we can't. What's one thing that you want to convey that's the most important thing you want to get across?
Most important thing that I want to get across is that be mindful of who you are. Be respectful to others. I would say is the most important thing. Like respect the other person. If you're married, stay true to your wife. You loved each other before. Don't fall for the easy way out in divorce, which was like the next part of this same scripture. Due to your sexual desires for somebody else, because that just hurts everybody.
Yeah, there's lots of
yeah, there's lots of fallout. So yeah, my most important thing is that respect your spouse, stay within your boundaries. No, yeah,
I don't know, being respectful to everyone. It sounds really simple, but it actually is the baseline for all of this. Like, just if you're just thinking about doing it with everything, then you're not respecting them at all. You're thinking about your own desires. There's utter selfishness about it, and that's so disrespectful.
Yeah,
I love you. I want you only for what you could give me.
Yeah, and that's not what Jesus was about, and that's not what Jesus was saying. That or that was what Jesus was saying, is that you have to be respectful to everybody, because this is the way.
Yeah,
this is the way. That's
yeah.
right.
And if I want to leave with anything, it's not about guilt. I want people with some hope. If you like how the a certain opposite sex looks, that's okay. That's how God made you. You're tempted to have sex with them in your brain. That's not okay, but it's not a sin yet. You can still stop something. And I know I people might disagree on this, but I think that we need to learn to be just platonic friends with other people. It doesn't mean you got to go out for coffee with them. I think we should have more friends. I don't think we should be scared to care about people. One quick thing from college, I remember. Because college, everyone's full of hormones, and they're so paranoid that they're going to all start having sex at college. This is in Bible school. One of the deans did this talk, and he had this chart that showed different levels. So there's emotional, physical, and spiritual. And those three things. Said if you're a couple and you grow your spiritual, it'll make all the other ones come along with it. And I'll tell you at the outset, I think this was garbage. I think this is made up BS. So what he was suggesting was, if you're too close spiritually or too close emotionally, the physical will automatically come along with it. And I look back on that and think, where do you get this from? He's basically saying that it's impossible for a man and woman to ever be friends without wanting to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that. I have friends that I love, people from my home group and stuff. Helped move last weekend. I love her dearly. I tell her that to her face. I hug her and I say, I love you so much. I tell her why I love her. I admire about her. In front of my wife, I'll do it whenever. And there's not a speck of disrespect or anything else other than just Christ-like love for them. And I have a few people like that in my life. And think it's doable. I don't, and I, no, I think there's hope for something better. I think. I mean, if you disagree, that's fine. Hey, react to this listening land. We need you to. We don't need you to be here live for the. I mean, it's cool if you can, but you have a few other options. So you can comment on the YouTube page. You can follow us on Twitter at moreaboutjesus3. You could email us moreaboutjesus21@gmail.com. There's lots of ways, and we have a Discord. So anywhere you're listening to this on a podcast form, or if you're watching on YouTube, there's links down below that will take you to our Discord. So join us, be part of that. You don't have to if you just listen quietly, and that's fine too. We're not trying to build an audience. We're just trying to work together. Two guys that might not agree on everything, but we love Jesus and love each other because we're family. But also, I think if we, right?
Oh yeah, I think we'd have fun.
Yeah, because we're both nerds too.
That's right.
Anyway,
That's
so
right.
yeah. So until the next time you listen to us, join us in the discussion and in trying to make our lives a lot more about Jesus.
Amen. And hope to see you all later.
Mm-hmm.